Well, it is an absolute honor to be here with you all this evening for this incredible celebration of compassion and community. When I look around this room, I see people who care deeply about Winter Haven. Not just the place, but the people. Heart for Winter Haven represents the best of who we are. Neighbors helping neighbors, faith meeting action, love meeting need. As a longtime resident of Winter Haven and having the honor of serving as city manager, I have the privilege of seeing our community's heart in action just about every single day in every place I go. I've seen the partnerships that make this city stronger, the churches, the nonprofits, local businesses, civic organizations, and residents who come together, each doing their part to make sure no one is left behind. And I'll tell you something, we're blessed in Winter Haven to have so many who work together to move the needle. I've said this time and time again in my life outside of city management as a local musician. This is the most philanthropic place I've ever been in this world. The willingness of people to give so openly of their time and their treasures and their talents to help others in need. Winter Haven is light years ahead of any place else in Polk County, any place else in the state of Florida, any place else in this country, and that is because of people like you. On any given day, you'll find nonprofits, faith-based institutions, businesses, and everyday citizens extending a hand to those in need. Sometimes it's shelter, or clothing, or food, or just an open ear and a warm smile. We see people in need in our daily travels and in many places. We see them at the park. We see them at an intersection. We see them outside a local business. But we also don't always recognize them in the other places, behind the counter, in our own places of worship or work, in the classroom, and on the playgrounds. People experiencing the stresses of uncertainty come in all variations and from all backgrounds. Thus, there is not a one-size-fits-all description, nor is there a one-size-fits-all solution. It takes many approaches from many sources, with many hands and many hearts. I'll give you an example of that. 21 years ago, my mom and dad, along with a handful of others, established a weekly feeding program at First Presbyterian Church just up the road to help those in need. For the past 21 years, a hot meal has been served every Saturday evening without fail. Rain or shine, week after week, through every hurricane we've experienced since that time and throughout the entire pandemic. On some Saturdays, more than 150 people have been served. Think about that for a minute. 150 people. Have you seen 150 people in our community that you would describe as homeless? It just reinforces the fact that not everyone in crisis wears it for the world to see. Yet the crisis is there, and it's very real. If you happen to go to the soup kitchen, you'll see the homeless adult you passed on a park bench earlier in the week. You'll see the person that's been living out of their car in a vacant parking lot. You'll see the person you saw earlier in the week at that intersection holding that sign. But you know what else you'll see? Families. Families with young children who are simply trying to make ends meet. Parents who use that free meal to stretch their paycheck just far enough to keep the lights on or perhaps to put gas in the car so that they can get to work. And you'll see little boys and girls laughing and playing, no different from any other children. Children who are born with the same spark, the same promise, and the same dreams. Yet for reasons often beyond their control, they find themselves living in a reality that would terrify any of us if it were our own. That's the real face of homelessness in our community. It's not a stereotype. It's not someone else's problems. It's families, it's veterans, it's working parents, and yes, it's children. For me, this isn't just a policy issue, it's personal. So I'll share a little insight. And Mr. McAdams, you said I started at 15 and I've been with the city since 2001. I think that makes me, in my early 30s. That 15 was way back in the 80s, so I want to be very clear about that. But I did grow up in this community. My family's been here since the early 70s. But But I'll tell you a little story about us. So I had the opportunity to go away to school for my college days. And while I was in Tallahassee at Florida State, my parents lost everything. They lost their business, our home, their savings, everything they had worked so hard to build. They found themselves, well, homeless. To some extent, they found themselves hopeless. In what felt like an instant, the stability they had always known disappeared. They went from having what many would consider the American dream to an inconceivable nightmare. I never forget getting a phone call from my dad while I was at college explaining to me this situation of what had just happened. It took a few days for it to truly sink in. Then it suddenly hit me. At the end of that week, I realized that as other students were talking about going home for the long weekend, I no longer had a home to go to. Even as a young adult with opportunity ahead of me, I remember feeling scared, uncertain, and completely unmoored. And I often think about the children in our city who feel those same emotions every single day, without the safety net that I was fortunate to eventually find. That's part of why this cause matters so much. It's not just about helping those who are homeless in need. It's also about helping those who are one crisis away from being in that same situation. By the way, that soup kitchen I mentioned, my parents' desire to make that a reality was fueled in part by the reality they experienced firsthand. It was about paying it forward, extending a hand to others in appreciation and acknowledgement of others who extended a hand to them. We're blessed in Winter Haven to have elected officials, civic leaders, and just good people that have made addressing homelessness among families with school-aged children a top priority. I want to recognize my city commission members that are here. For several years now, the city commission has partnered with and helped fund H4WH Haven's critical work because they know that solving homelessness takes more than government. It takes partnership, it takes faith, it takes the will of a united community. Together, we're breaking cycles that have lasted for generations in some cases. We're restoring hope where it's been lost, and we're proving that when compassion meets collaboration, real change happens. Nelson Mandela once said, "There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children." So tonight, I invite you to look into the soul of our city and ask yourself, what part will I play? Maybe you can donate. Maybe you can volunteer. Maybe you can mentor or hire or simply extend grace to someone who's trying to find their footing again. Because in the end, the solution doesn't live in a single policy, a single program, or single person. It lives in the collective heartbeat of this city, in each of us choosing to care, to give, to act. And if you ever doubt that your contribution matters, I invite you to picture this. A young child, asleep tonight of all nights in a warm bed, safe and unafraid, because somewhere, someone in Winter Haven cared enough to make a difference. That's what tonight is about. That's what H4WH Haven represents. Together we can ensure that every child does more than just grow up. They grow up with a home, and they grow up with hope. I want to thank you again. May our hearts continue to beat together for the city we love and for the people who call it home. Thank you.